Georgia absolutely kicked Texas's teeth in. You had to play Arch Manning. First of all, I don't know if I necessarily agreed with that move at all. Like, unless you legitimately thought that Arch Manning was going to win you that football game, and you were going to ride with him the rest of the way out. I don't know. I mean, Quinn Ewers, I guess, wasn't doing it, and you do owe it to your team to try to give yourself the best chance to win a football game. If you did believe that was Arch Manning, then okay, sure. Georgia's defense, man, was impressive. And it's not like Georgia's offense was, like, spectacular.
Sure, 3 turnovers, 3 picks from Carson Beck, bro.
Yeah, like, Texas had every opportunity to be in this game and win it. And they just did nothing. Credit to the Georgia defense. 7 sacks on that offensive line. An offensive line that we previewed before the season being potentially one of the best position groups in the entire country. 7 sacks. Jalen Milroe, and more you're looking back at that Georgia-Alabama game, and the more and more you have to give credit to Jalen Milroe and just making explosive plays. It is, Georgia probably should be undefeated if they had played,
competent first half.
Yeah, if they'd played something of a decent first half, they could have absolutely won that game. But, yeah, Carson Beck wasn't amazing. They didn't run the ball particularly well. They did run the ball, I think, better than I thought they were against Texas. I did pick Texas in this game. I regret doing it. It's clear that they hadn't really been tested yet, and I think you exposed some things on Texas that, like for instance, their wide receivers. I know people were already sold on Texas wide receivers being fantastic. Weren't able to get a ton of separation. Not that Quinn Ewers had a lot of time. Also, Quinn Ewers, when he gets pressure on him, his whole entire career, he hasn't been good. He has never been particularly good under pressure. His pressure to sack rate before entering the season was like 33%. When he gets pressure in his face, he just goes down. Right? So, and we talked about, you asked me, where is the quarterback edge lie in this game? I'm like, I don't know if there is one, right? But I'm like, if you were to tell me, if you were maybe pick one, right, I'd probably pick Carson Beck because he has been playing better football than Quinn Ewers because Quinn Ewers is hurt and he didn't play that well in that game coming off the injury. But it wasn't the quarterbacks that won this game like I thought they were, right? I thought it was going to be the better quarterback in this game was going to win the football game maybe. And, whoever doesn't turn the ball over or takes care of the football, neither team took care of the football. Neither quarterbacks played well. It came down to, where did the turnovers happen? Were you able to capitalize on them? And getting pressure on Quinn Ewers.
Yeah, if you told me Carson Beck was going to be 23 of 41, right, not very efficient, only 175 yards, not very explosive, 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, I would have said, uh-oh. Uh-oh.
How much did Texas win by?
It would have been, is anyone going to stop Texas this year? That literally would have been like, okay, is the season over? Like, is Texas that good? But holy cow, you got to give a ton of credit to Kirby Smart, Glenn Schumann, that Georgia coaching staff. Obviously, the players made fantastic plays. Jalen Walker made himself a ton of money. Obviously, was going to be a high pick regardless, but he was incredible. But the way that they schemed up some of those pressures, the way they schemed up those looks against Quinn Ewers, I mean, he was in turmoil there. And then, of course, they threw an Arch Manning to the Wolves. Part of me, too, think part of that was, like you said, you owe it to your team to at least see if something was nothing was working, right? It was not working. And the only play that they had like a real chance to actually score on in that first half was the end around or like the flea flicker type thing, that trick play basically. And then Wisner dropped the ball. That was your only chance to like really move the football there. And obviously Georgia's defense got to stop there. And you had to, I think, punt, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I mean, ton of credit goes to Georgia and that staff there. Part of me also thinks it's like there's a lot of conversation about, okay, should Manning be playing? And as soon as you saw Quinn Ewers struggle early on, I'm sure a lot of people, Texas fans and potentially Texas players, were like, well, maybe Mark Manning should be the guy, and his legs can maybe help this offensive line who was struggling. And I think part of it was like Sark was just like, I'm going to throw him in there at the end of the first half. If something sparks, awesome. I think he's obviously a really talented football player. He can do it. But part of it was also like, A, Quinn Ewers, you have to play better. And B, like, let's stop this conversation that Manning is going to give you, a better edge for this football team than Quinn Ewers is. I am a firm believer that Quinn Ewers is the ceiling of this team. I think he is the best chance they have to win a title. Can they win a title with Arch Manning? For sure. He can develop. He can get better for sure. But I do think Quinn Ewers is the upside of this football team. So part of that was like, to me, I took it like Sark is just like, screw you guys. Let's see what happens here. I'm not that I'm putting him in a bad spot, but I'm kind of putting him in a bad spot. If he succeeds, awesome. But if he fails, I'm going to go right back to Ewers, who is our best chance to win this football game and the rest of the season. So, yeah, incredible game, incredible atmosphere. I thought late Texas might have had a chance to make it a football game, and they just couldn't quite convert. My over 55.5, super, super brutal. I mean, it was at 55 for what? 10 minutes left in that fourth quarter or whatever it was, and Texas had a couple opportunities to score. They had a fumble when they were driving. They had turnover on downs, at the 29. Then they had turnover downs on the 11-yard lines.
Overturned.
Yeah.
Some people threw some stuff on the field.
Yeah. First of all, classy look by Texas State fans, right? Classic look by Texas State students. Just kind of brutal. But I don't know. That was crazy. I'm not going to get into that because I don't know the rulesing on that. I'm not an official. I do think it's crazy to overturn it the way they did. I do think they probably got the call right. So at the end of the day,
they did get the call right.
As a college football fan, I'm just going to, okay, whatever. I do think that sets a bad precedent. I do think they do need to fix something with that. And it was obviously just a bad look for Texas fans to be throwing stuff on the field. It's dangerous. It's disrespectful. It takes away from the game. Credit Sark for just running over there and just yelling at the student section. I got to give him a lot of credit for that. But
yeah. It's not on Sark, but people were like, oh, why is Kirby Smart bringing that up in his post game interview? It's like, why wouldn't he? Right?
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous, and I'm not going to comment much further on that. I just do think it was okay and correct for Kirby Smart to address that because it was an issue. It was stupid. It was dangerous. All right. And on top of that, like you said, sets precedent. And he mentioned that as well in his post-game interview. So,
and it was a massive, massive turning point in the football game. Now, obviously, it was the right call, so it should have happened. But Georgia, it made it an 8-point ball game, and then Georgia went down and scored. Credit to them. Etienne was fantastic on that drive. So and Delp had the big play. So it was it was a good game. I think I still feel pretty good about Texas being where I thought they were. I took Georgia in the football game because I thought Texas was a little bit overrated. I thought they didn't play anybody. I thought the defense was not as good as everyone thought, even though defense actually did some things for Carson
really
Beck.
Yeah.
Actually played pretty well, but I don't know. I still am not going to sell the boat on Texas. I obviously bumping up Georgia just a little bit because we do see when they do play their potential defensively, right, this is what can happen. And you're still waiting on Carson Beck in that offense to really kind of hit a second gear. And
for 4 quarters.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, for 4 quarters in a big football game. So we'll see. Obviously, this was an awesome game, awesome environment. Let's see what happens the rest of the way out. I do think Texas looks very vulnerable. I think Georgia's also looked vulnerable at times too. So it's cool to see in the SEC. There's a lot of parity at the top there. There's some teams that potentially, can give some other teams problems. And obviously, no one is invincible in the SEC. And that's going to be the reality, I think, of the SEC going forward with all this talent, all this coaching talent, all these stars, fan bases, brutal environments. You're going to see, it's going to be very hard to run the table. And it is week 8. And there's no undefeated team in the SEC.